I'm Kaitlin Gallucci, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at Historic Huguenot Street, which is a nonprofit 10-acre National Historic Landmark District dedicated to preserving historic buildings, artifacts, and manuscripts, and promoting the stories of the Huguenot Street families who founded New Paltz. If you missed our show last week with archivist and historian Eric Roth, you can listen to it anytime on Historic Huguenot Street's YouTube channel. And in fact, you can hear any of our past shows on our YouTube channel. And tonight, by the way, is our final show of the semester. A reminder about Historic Huguenot Street's regular tours. As of November 1st, tours are now offered on weekends only until December 18th. This is just seasonal, and tours will be offered 6 days a week again beginning in the spring. But for now, tours are only available on weekends unless you contact the office to make an appointment otherwise. However, don't forget, we launched a free walking tour mobile app this year for those of you who maybe don't have the time for a full tour or are passing through on a day that we're closed. So the app is available for free for both Apple and Android devices, and it gives you a brief history of each of the historic houses on the street, plus some archival photos, things like that. You can find that app just by searching for Historic Huguenot Street in your device's app store. This Saturday, we actually have a special tour planned on the 19th at 5 p.m. Our board vice chair, Sandy Levy, will bring guests into the 3 upstairs bedrooms of the Deyo House as part of a special tour called Behind Closed Doors, a peek in our bedrooms. Earlier this year, the Deyo House bedrooms were restyled with Levy's assistance to interpret over 100 years of decorative art styles. The tour will specifically highlight pieces from Historic Huguenot Street's collections from the Federal, Empire, and Victorian eras. And what's really cool is that many of these pieces haven't been on view in years, possibly even decades. They most often probably didn't fit in or suit the existing interpretation, so they've been kept in storage, and this year we get a chance to see them. To talk more about this, tonight I'm joined by Historic Huguenot Street's Collections Manager Ashley Trainor. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Kaitlin.
Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me again.
So the Deyo House used to, at least recently, used to pretty much exclusively interpret material culture at the turn of the 20th century, but as I said this year, the curation has been broadened to show a variety of styles. What inspired that decision?
Right, so basically we revamped our tour this year, and Bill Weldon, who was our consultant for writing these tours, and our staff realized there was about 300 years of history missing. So you went from the Jean House, this colonial story, late 1700s, into this Gilded Age colonial revival Queen Anne mansion, and you missed a huge gap of history. So, you know, the Deyo House was a great house. It was told, you still hear the family story downstairs. Mm-hmm. But the bedrooms were a bit of a mishmash. It was just kind of like, let's take everything Victorian that we have and kind of throw it in a house and hope that this works. And it did work. It was a wonderful house. The bedrooms were wonderful, but this year we made them into gallery bedrooms, much like if you go to the Met and you see gallery bedrooms. The cool thing about us, though, and other gallery bedrooms in other museums is that we can make it look lived in.
Oh, yeah.
So there's clothing. So when you go upstairs in these houses, you take the tour downstairs and you're told the Gilded Age story and colonial revival and the Victorian story. And then you go upstairs and you're kind of told to, you know, clear your mind of everything you just heard, and you're just looking into gallery bedrooms of what a bedroom at the time would have looked like. Mm-hmm. So we did a federal period, which is 1790 to about 1820, Empire, which is like 1830s, and then Victorian, obviously, the reign of Queen Victoria, most popular, 1880, 1890.
Great. Yeah, and I love that aspect of it, how it pretty much, you know, because the tours always do take you exactly from a colonial house, and then you go across the street and say, well, this used to be a colonial house, but now it's a mansion, and so we are going to tell that story.
Yeah.
And now we can say, you know, you look into these rooms and you can see that, you know, 100-year jump that we just made, rather than pretend the 1800s didn't happen.
Right. Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more about the design styles? You mentioned the Empire, the Federal, and Victorian. Can you tell us a bit more about those?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with my personal favorite, which is Federal. So kind of the theme of Huguenot Street has always been identity. So this kind of falls in with it. So the Federal style was right after the Revolution, and these newly found Americans were trying to find an identity, and with an identity comes art styles. And that came with furniture. So the best way that I describe it to tours, I do like tours with classes a lot of the time. I say, think about the furniture that you've seen in the White House. That's Federal. Very thin lines.
Good one.
Inlays, very simple. A lot of themes of eagles. With the Federal style, they went back to the classics because they were a newly found democracy. So they went back to the classic Greco-Roman styles and added that into it. So it's cool. A cool thing that we can do at Huguenot Street with all the rooms is do it like a typical room at the time period would look like, and then add family into it. So one of my favorite pieces, it's an 1820, I believe it's 1820, between 1810 and 1820, bedspread is a Sarah Deyo hand-knit white bedspread. So it's time period appropriate, it looks great, and you have some of the family, origins, provenance on it.
Right.
The Empire room. So the Empire is funny because you think of Empire and you think of France and Napoleon coming to like take your European country. Empire and Federal kind of interweave, which is confusing. But if you think about contemporary things like styles now are interweaving, and in 100 years people will study them as interweaving.
Right.
Empire came to the United States around 1830, 1840, and it started with Napoleon in France going to all of these factories and going to the makers and saying, I want giant furniture with French nationalism on it. I want people to know that I am Napoleon and this is who we are. So the France theme didn't come to the United States. However, these giant, bold statements did. So if you go into the Empire bedroom, there's this sleigh bed, which is like this giant bed, heavy, I can tell you, because I was part of moving it. So there are these themes, and then during the time, there were these makers. Duncan Fife is one of them. So now we think of furniture, and we think of going to IKEA and buying a coffee table. Then furniture was an art piece. They were handmade by these makers, and like I said, Duncan Fife was a big name. So one of the cool pieces in the Empire room is this tilt-top table that has hairy paw feet, and it's got a signature. It's got a Charles Warner, who was a Poughkeepsie table maker. These makers would sign their pieces just as if an artist would sign their oil on canvas.
Sure.
So that's really cool. That's really awesome. One of my favorite things. And then I'm a textile person. So I added clothing into both the Federal and the Empire room because we had it. All of the things that you see in these rooms when you go in are to date, so they are between 1790 and 1820. There's no reproductions in any of them that I can think of.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So the cool thing about the Empire and the Federal room, the refurnishings, is that we had this house Lefevre, which those who have been around New Paltz for a while have probably toured it, but it was closed recently. I don't remember. I want to say within the last 10 years, probably sooner than that. But these pieces have been under sheets in storage. So myself, Sandy, who's giving the tour on Saturday, Marietta Schneider, who's our board chair, were walking through Lefevre and pulled off blankets and found these like magnificent pieces that we didn't know we had just because they were shoved in a corner in storage. So it's pretty exciting that we get this opportunity to pull them out and show them. And everybody that I've brought up, it's cool because you get to work on these rooms, and then you kind of get, like with writing a paper or something, like you kind of get numb to it and you don't think how exciting it is, but then you see somebody seeing it for the first time and you're like, oh, this is cool. Like, this is a cool thing. We have cool stuff.
I feel like it's so often, people like gasp when they first walk into the Deyo House.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's a great point too, about, not even knowing, that these items were in storage and kind of, not necessarily remembered, because that's again why it's so cool to have an opportunity to bring these pieces out, because again, these things didn't fit into a colonial interpretation.
Right.
They didn't fit into a colonial revival interpretation. But now that we're offering views of these other styles,
Yeah.
they have a place that they belong.
Oh yeah, and it's gonna. I'm hoping that they stay in this home for a while and that people get to see them. The Victorian room is kind of the same as Gertrude's bedroom was, but we've added more things. We switched out the bed set, added a new quilt, which is really exciting for me because I'm a dork and love the quilts. There's a little case when you walk in that room, and I encourage everybody who I know is going to take a tour of Huguenot Street to look in this little case. And there's this tiny green glass vase that looks like it's nothing, but it's actually a really valuable and handcrafted Tiffany glass piece.
Oh yeah, I remember that from the Object of the Week blog.
Yeah.
Because I remember I read the post first, and it was like a Tiffany vase, and I was like, wow. And then I looked at the picture of it, and I was like, this is a Tiffany vase.
It's like 2 centimeters tall.
It's so interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's one of my favorite pieces in that room. And it's cool that Sandy's giving this tour because when you take the tour in the Deyo House, you're just kind of like, this is this, 1790 to 1820, this is this. But Sandy gets to actually go into just 3 rooms. He has an hour to go into the 3 rooms and actually kind of like dish it out and actually talk about it and not just like whirlwind through it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he knows so much.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
a great guide.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Great. So we're going to take a quick break. This is WFNP The Edge. Hi, and welcome back. You're listening to Historic Huguenot Street's weekly program on WFNP The Edge. I'm Kaitlin Gallucci, and I've been speaking to Historic Huguenot Street's Collections Manager Ashley Trainor about our upcoming event this Saturday, Behind Closed Doors, a special tour of the Deyo House bedrooms. I'd actually like to talk about another curatorial topic now. I want to spend some time to talk about the Deborah Bloomer Du Bois painting, which is about to go on view in the Du Bois Fort. Can you tell us about that?
I can. So, I think it was November of last year, so about a year ago. Sandy, our collections committee chair, he came to us with this donor, a 102-year-old man named Nathaniel Clark Du Bois. And his neighbor, I guess, Barbara, this woman's name is, was contacted us and saying this man had this painting. He's 102, so he wants to give it to you guys. And Sandy went to pick it up in Marlborough and just found this like magnificent painting. At the time, we called her the unidentified Du Bois Marlborough girl. We didn't know who she was. She was a little bit in rough shape. Sandy picked her up. I call my collections pieces by pronouns, so don't think I'm crazy. Took her off the wall, and the frame just fell out, and
wow.
She wasn't attached to a frame. She was dirty. She still beautiful. So he donated her to Huguenot Street. We had applied for a grant through Greater Hudson Heritage Network, and fortunately got it. So she was recently conserved. And while she was away, while the painting was away at U.S. Conservation in Connecticut, I had an intern, actually, Deanna. One day, she came in, and it was like one of those days where I was like, I don't really like have too big of a project for my interns today. I was like, can you just see if you can find out who this chick is? Like, let's just see who she is. So I was in a house, or I was off site for a few hours, and I came back, and literally she had a family tree written down, and had figured out who this girl was just based on the fact that we knew she was a Du Bois and that we knew she was in Marlborough. So forgive me, I don't remember the exact genealogy of who she is off the top of my head. But I know that she's a descendant of the patentee Louis Dubois.
Yes.
And she's directly related to Huguenot Street. Sometimes we get these portraits that are donated that are time period and beautiful, but kind of have a convoluted way of relating to Huguenot Street.
Right.
But she's not, and she came back from the conservator, and there's a chair in the painting that we didn't see I didn't see when it was first donated. She's sitting on this beautiful time period chair. I don't know if I said this, the painting dates to 1830. And with the grant money that we were awarded, we were also able to conserve the frame. So
oh, nice.
Now she's clean and beautiful, and the frame is the same, and she's going to be hung in the Du Bois Fort.
Yeah.
Something that's really exciting is the donor, who I said was 102, his dream, I guess, was to see her hanging and on display. So he's visiting us tomorrow.
That's awesome.
To come see Deborah Bloomer on display in the Du Bois Fort.
Yeah.
So it's great. It's one of the more exciting pieces that we've gotten in a very long time.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know I remember reading about it on the Object of the Week blog and being so impressed that it was like, so we didn't know who this was, and we figured it out. I just thought that was so amazing.
I just looked at this girl, Deanna, like, I hope she listens at some point.
We can send her a link.
Yeah. I just looked at, she was just chilling, like, she's like, all right, found it, and then slid it over to me. And I was like, you're joking. Like, I left you alone for like 3 hours, and you found it. She deserves all the credit
That's
in the world
amazing.
for that.
We
Yeah.
have the best interns.
Yeah, and like, she was just given a Dubois, however you say it, genealogy, and rolled from there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that painting in person
Yeah.
as well. I've only seen the photo so far, and I mean, just like how you said, you know, oh, there's a chair there now.
Yeah.
I was just seeing the picture on the computer screen, like I was blown away by like the color in this painting now. I can't wait to see it.
If you have to go look at it and look at the jewelry that she's wearing, cause
Oh, I noticed that too. That kind of jumped out now. Yeah.
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And we thank Greater Hudson Heritage and grant opportunities that keep us going to, you know, for us to be able to do this and put her on display and make a 102-year-old man very happy, hopefully.
Oh, yeah, totally. Great. So you can see that painting as it looked before restoration on our Object of the Week blog at hhscollections.wordpress.com. Search for Deborah Du Bois. And the restored painting will be, as we said, on display in the Du Bois Fort through December 18th. And again, the Du Bois Fort is now open on weekends only through December 18th, unless by special appointment. And again, this Saturday, the tour with Sandy Levy begins at 5 p.m. with a reception in the Du Bois Fort at 81 Huguenot Street, catered by Main Course. You can register for that program at huguenotstreet.org/behind-closed-doors. And because only a limited number of people can tour the house at a time, this will most likely sell out prior to the event. So please register online if you're interested in that. It's an Old Fort History Club event, so it's $25 for new members and $20 if you're already a member of the Old Fort History Club. Since this is our last show of the semester, I do also want to talk about the rest of the events we have coming up this year. As you may know, Saturday, November 26th is known as Small Business Saturday, so there will be sales throughout the museum shop on, you know, bath and body products, home decor, jewelry, and more, and refreshments will be provided. The museum shop is located also in the Du Bois Fort at 81 Huguenot Street. On December 2nd and 3rd, Historic Huguenot Street and the Reformed Church will be hosting 2 days of holiday programming known as A Holiday on Huguenot Street. This is a series of events that'll begin at 4 p.m. on Friday, December 2nd, with Historic Huguenot Street's special holiday tours, which will leave from the Du Bois Fort on the hour at 5, 6, 8, and 9 p.m. Registration is encouraged for those tours. There will also be a Lagusta's Luscious pop-up shop in the Du Bois Fort from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. I know. I was so happy to hear that that's coming back because that wasn't on the original schedule.
No, it's not.
It just recently got added. Yeah,
I love her.
Yeah, I know. It's like such bad news for my wallet, but I'm so happy. So that's Friday, December 2nd from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. So we have a good 6 hours with the Lagusta's pop-up shop. And then starting at 4:30 on December 2nd, local photography studio Duet Image will be shooting family and pet holiday portraits at the Reformed Church's Education Building, with all proceeds going to benefit the Humane Society of Walden. And this is great. We love these photographers, Doug and Regina. They've done work on Huguenot Street before, and they're very talented. At 5 p.m., the Reformed Church's annual craft fair will open, and the Misty Mountain Girl Scout Troop will begin their holiday cookie walk to benefit Local at Heart, an organization that supports local food pantries. The Girl Scouts participating are also working on earning badges with this community service, so it's great to support them as well. Also, one of our colleagues is their troop leader,
so
which
cute.
is so sweet.
I didn't know that was the
you
cookie
didn't know?
walk. I just saw cookie walk,
yeah.
and I thought it was
They're going to be selling cookies, and earning badges while doing it.
Future of America.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, this is an optimistic weekend coming up. The church's annual Soup on the Stoop will then begin at 6 p.m. And at 6:45, we'll have a paper lantern light parade down Huguenot Street, leading up to the tree lighting on the Deyo House lawn. The tree will be lit by 7 p.m., and then Santa and Mrs. Claus will be on the Deyo House porch for free photo opportunities until 8 p.m. And at 8 p.m., the Big Blue Big Band will perform in the Reformed Church. That's Friday, December 2nd. Now, on Saturday, December 3rd, Duet Image will resume their holiday portraits at 9:30 a.m. Historic Huguenot Street's holiday tours will resume at 10 a.m. And the Girl Scout Cookie Walk will also pick back up from 10 to 4. The Reformed Church will host its annual Christmas Cafe at 11. There will be miniature donkeys at the Education Building and sheep at the Bevere Elting House.
Last year there was a miniature donkey named Peaches, and it was adorable.
I know, they had Santa hats on.
Oh my god. Sorry, keep interrupting.
This year we have sheep.
Oh my god.
No, please continue.
This is gonna be an amazing weekend.
I know. And wait, horse-drawn carriage rides starting at 1 until 4 p.m.
Those horses were huge.
It was. Oh my gosh, they really are. That was great last year. That was great last year.
I took like 5 rides.
Yeah, I took a couple. As always, thanks to our generous sponsors. This year's holiday programming on Huguenot Street is sponsored by America's Best Value Inn, the 1850 House Inn and Tavern, the accounting offices of Tom Facito, and Ulster Savings Bank. And finally, you heard Ashley and I chat about this earlier on the show. On previous shows that we've done, our exhibit of Dutch silver spoons and Dutch master paintings is on display in the Dubois Fort until December 18th. And on December 10th, we'll be having a special reception with one of the collectors whose pieces are in the exhibit, George Way. Our website will be updated with more info on that soon. And as we also mentioned earlier, that newly restored painting of Deborah Bloomer Dubois will also be on display in the fort until December 18th. So we're wrapping up now, and again, this is our last show of the semester, but we'll pick back up in the spring every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. at WFNP.org or 88.7 FM. And in the meantime, you can visit HuguenotStreet.org for information on all of our upcoming events. You can also follow us on social media and sign up for our email list to stay informed on what's happening on the street. Thanks for listening.